Okay, we are live. Hi,
Nice.
I'm Sage Stevens, the host of Shout Out with Sage. Welcome today, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So, my guest today is a former NFL player for the Miami Dolphins and Pittsburgh Steelers, who is now a financial professional, international speaker, and author of the book Let's Get It, which touches on his near death experience on the field and much, much more. So I would like to welcome to the show today Kristoffer Doura. Hi, Chris. How are you? Thanks for being here.
Hey, hi Sage. Thank you for having me. I feel like I was in California, maybe a month or two ago, and we were just hanging out at the Oscars. And it's funny because, like, I guess we connected so well. You got me back on the show, so I said,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yes. Thanks for being here. Yeah, we met at an event and I don't know, just chatted and here you are. So awesome. I love how those things happen, which is sort of what the show's about though, is like serendipitous moments and people who've helped you reach your success. And there's always those stories where people, you hear, oh, I was at a cafe and I met so and so and then I got this job and there's all these steps to the voyage everyone's on. So speaking of that, what about your journey? You were an NFL player and now you're in finance. What
Yeah,
are the similarities between those two? Why don't we
you
start
know,
there?
what a great question to ask. I never dreamed of being 6'7" with an 85-inch wingspan and being able to kind of be quick on my feet.
Right.
My background, I'm from the Caribbean islands, and 40 years ago, my parents, left the country, Haiti, and had me and my siblings. We're first generation Haitian American. So you can only imagine that I didn't grow up with that whole, hey, American football, sports. Globally it's soccer. You kick the ball
Right.
like what's going on in the Mundial right now in Qatar. But luckily for us, we had the opportunity to transition, leave New York, and we came to Miami. I sprouted like a green stalk. It's funny because my mother's 5'4", my dad's 6'1", and I have a great uncle on my father's side who's 7 feet. So that's where I inherited my height from.
Okay.
So it played in my favor. And luckily for me, I decided to try high school football for 1 year, and I ended up getting a scholarship. I'm like, whoa, this is a chance, by the grace of God. I
Right.
took the deal. I went to University of Charleston, West Virginia, coal mine state, and listen, a lot of adversity in West Virginia, but I got through it. I'm very focused on education, so I knew getting a master's degree was going to be important for me to continue my legacy. What happened to me really, Sage, was the NFL. They found out who I was, and
Okay.
they knew that I was able to kind of play the position of an offensive lineman, blindside tackle. You seen the movie with Sandra Bullock?
Yes. Yes.
Very similar, qualities, but one thing led to another where they were interested. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have the huge entourage. I didn't go to the big university with 30,000 students. I went to the small private university with 1,200 students. Now, I guess I stood out like a sore thumb because that's when I got recognized. I said, you know what? There's two options after completing this graduate program: fly to Shanghai, get into the private sector, or go NFL. Well, that wasn't much of the big decision for me to make because you only get one shot at going pro.
Right.
And I said, you know what? If it doesn't work out, at least I can fall back and become an entrepreneur. Now, before I decided to go pro, I said, well, wow, if it doesn't work out, what am I going to do? Well, the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
inspired
Yeah.
me to kind of get into the whole investment world.
Right.
When they were talking about stocks, orange juice, futures, I was intrigued. Like, these guys look rich. I want to be like them when I grow up. So that's why I did business in college. So I knew for a fact I was going to get into the Wolf of Wall Street lane at some point.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
2010 was, my appearance when I walked on to the Miami Dolphins. Tony Sperano was our head coach. We had a great, cast of athletes, but that was kind of the entry for me. A walk-on, tryout player who actually, had a great opportunity. When I fast forward in my pro football career, I had an opportunity to continue with Canada in the CFL,
Oh yeah.
and then
Well, I grew up in Canada, so I'm very aware of Canadian football. Which
right.
team? Which team?
I played for the Montreal Alouettes under Mark
Oh, when
Tress.
they were, yeah, yeah.
Really good coach. One of my favorites actually in my whole entire career. Just the way that he connected with me was, special.
Mm,
But it was a great opportunity to continue building my resume.
okay.
That led me to come back to the States and land with the Steelers, and that's when everything changed for me.
Mm,
Luckily for me, I was in a position where you got to compete for a job. At the end of the day, everybody's good, fast, big, and strong.
right.
But I actually collapsed on the field, and
Oh, wow.
luckily
Yes, yeah, that's a lot. Tell
it,
me more. Keep
it,
going.
it was a scenario where I didn't know what was going on. Playing at a high level, I collapsed, and when I realized it, I woke up in a hospital at the UPMC, one of the major regional hospitals on the East Coast.
Mm,
When the doctors looked at me, they said, "Chris, it doesn't look good." I had no idea what that meant. I'm by myself, never seen any of these physicians before in my life, and they're telling me, "Chris, here's the thing: you dehydrated
mm,
severely." Now, dehydration is pretty big,
right,
especially when you're in a very hot climate, and you're an athlete. You push yourself, to full velocity.
right.
One thing led to another, where because I was pushing myself, overexerting, I dehydrated so severely that it put me in the hospital. But it was worse than that, Sage. They actually realized that I had actually a blood clot in
Oh,
my leg,
wow.
and that was the moment right there. I didn't know what to expect, but the doctor said we had to perform a surgery because there wasn't enough, oxygen and blood flow pumping from your leg to your heart. And if we need to
Mm.
make a decision, it's not looking good. We're going to have to amputate, cut your leg off.
What? Oh my God.
When I heard that, I said, I'm 22 years old. That's not what I want to hear.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
not having any support, you don't know what to think about. Your heart's racing, your
Mm,
blood pressure spiked up, and all you're thinking is, I just got to live.
right.
I'm a God fearing man, and I
Mm,
pray, and that's really what allowed me to really become composed.
mm,
After prayer, we got rushed into the operating room, and we went immediately into surgery. They
okay.
had to perform surgery. It took over 16 hours, but within the first couple of minutes, as they were doing the fasciotomy, where they had to remove the blood clot from my leg, my heart actually flatlined, and
Wow.
I died.
That's,
You know, it, I've shared my story 1,000 times,
mm,
but every single time I think about it, when I am sharing the story in real time, I get a tingle in my spine to know
right.
that God said it wasn't my time. And what happened to me was, after my heart flatlined, I had that outer body experience, and
Okay.
it was surreal to a point where it felt like energies were pulling me, holding me.
Mm,
And it was two options: Chris, we're ready to receive you. But at the same time, you're not done with your purpose.
mm,
That's what I hung on to. I didn't have any sense of recollection in regards to like my body, but my conscience mind was still connected. And believe
right.
it or not, it is kind of like what people talk about, that dark tunnel of you just not being able to grasp anything. And it was really that experience where all I felt like it was just a connection with the bond of my family.
Okay.
And that's what I knew from that very moment in time that I had to check back in.
Mm,
They resuscitated me back to life and shocked
mm.
my heart back with the two square pegs. But thankfully, I was in shape. A guy who's 6'7", 350 pounds at the time. I was in shape to be able to take that
That
shock.
type of, right.
I woke up the next morning and didn't know what was going on, but I knew for a fact the first group of humans that I saw was my family, my parents, my siblings, and
Mm,
I just couldn't bear it. I broke down. When you're a
mm,
leader in your family and you got everything on your shoulders, it's kind of easy to kind of go through it and just take everything that's coming at you. But when
right.
you're down looking at the most closest people in your world look at
Mm,
you and you're looking at them, you can't do anything. You're helpless. It
mm,
destroys. And at that very
mm.
moment, I knew for a fact I was hanging up the cleats, because that's when I made my decision to say, you know what? It wasn't my end game. There's so much
Okay.
for me to accomplish, and that's when I decided at that very moment that football was no longer going to be a part of my future.
Mm. Just it was too much of a risk for you. Like, is like what else? Like, what were you thinking? Like, what was the major? I mean, obviously you had that, you had a near death experience. So you just felt like you had a higher purpose at that point?
Well, a good question, Sage. I felt like there was so much more that I can do to help in philanthropy.
Mm,
And when I think about philanthropy, it really brings joy to my heart,
mm,
knowing that if I could be somebody who can change one life, whether that be a child, an adult, a community, that's more of a bigger purpose for me. The football business was a business. We got hired to play. We were athletic
right,
to be able to do the job. However, it was still a company. It was still a corporation. It wasn't going to really identify who I was as a person.
right,
I became educated and knew that that was more important for me. That would go way further in life. So, with that, I realized that, life is just not only about sports, and life was more about compassion, humility, being able to change lives by how you can touch lives. And
mm,
that inspired me. Spending 3 months in the hospital wasn't easy. I didn't have a great experience at that. But one thing led to another where I got rolled in the day I collapsed at 350 pounds. After
okay.
spending 3 months in that hospital, I got rolled out at 208. I lost close to 65,
Oh,
70 pounds.
wow.
And I went from refrigerator mammoth of a man to LeBron James then. So,
Right,
it was that big transition for me that said, I don't want to put my body through that stress. I don't want to have to go back into the game, into the business. I was a
right.
late bloomer. I wasn't a guy who played all this life. It was a year in high school. I went to a very small university,
Mm,
got my master's, and then decided to go pro. So I knew I had
mm,
something else that was instilled in me that said, I got to have a backup plan. And
mm,
that's really when everything, got better for me. And I exited the hospital. I said, when I get back to Miami, I'm going to get back on my feet. It took about 8 months to learn how to
right.
walk again.
Oh,
That's when I
wow.
decided, becoming strong, and say, what, I'm going to put on a blazer. I love business, and let me become a financial person. And there you go. I was inspired because trading places in my education, and
That's
that
like
was
the funniest movie.
one of the best movies. I still laugh today even harder. But
Yeah.
it was that
Mhm.
inspiration that I knew for a fact by planting a seed in my education was really
Mhm.
was going to push me forward, even after the game of sport.
I mean, that's such a harrowing experience to have to go through, but at least you got through it, and you know you had a positive attitude about it, and transitioned into something else. What well, with that experience you wrote a book, correct?
Yeah, it was a project that got created actually in the pandemic, and
Okay.
believe it or not, my book just dropped yesterday,
Oh,
November
wow.
22nd, across every major retail distribution you can think of, from Target, Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million, Amazon, you name it.
Mm,
You can get the book. Let's get it. Really, it's 10 keys to building a nonprofit, the maximum impact.
mm,
you know, that's a story in itself where in the pandemic, I realized that there were so many organizations who were not getting funding, and their missions dissolved because they didn't get the grant. They didn't have the donor who felt comfortable to continue making that contribution. So
mm,
there was a lot of apprehension in regards to how organizations were going to continue building their legacy and becoming sustainable to be independent. Becoming a financial professional, I've become an authority with what I do, not only for business owners, helping them with their business succession planning and helping them exit their companies, but also shifting over to helping nonprofits with their legacy planning. I've identified that there was a need. There was a
mm.
need, but there wasn't enough information out there.
Yeah. I've
In
worked
the
with a lot of, yeah, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits, so I'm very aware, like, yeah, a lot of them need a lot of help. A lot of them are very not well organized, not doing what they need to do, as you said, to get the grants, or to bring in that money. So what are some of the main, like, what's, let's say, the top, one of the top issues you see that they have?
Well, to answer your question, the main concern is they're not, looking at the organization, the nonprofit, as a regular business. because really the only difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit company is the way that they're written in
Set
the
up.
tax.
That's it. It's really the only thing,
It,
right?
they are exempt, meaning they don't have to pay interest. They don't have to pay on the money that they receive, or they don't have to pay taxes on money that they receive as contributions. So
Right.
when you think about a nonprofit, there's different approaches to where they have dollars that are not restricted, meaning the dollars are not allocated to go towards a program or a service. So when they receive dollars that are unrestricted, meaning free and clear, they're not thinking about saving it, at least a portion of the money. So essentially, a lot of organizations, they still run off of a model that they feel every time they receive dollars, they have to reinvest it back into their nonprofit organization, as
Okay.
opposed to thinking, well, how do we just think about the rainy day? We didn't think about the pandemic, but a lot of them didn't have enough resources to maintain. And when
Right.
the grant didn't come in, that's when they had even more scarcity. So by having experience, I've been doing this now for almost a decade,
Mm.
as financial planning, and I realized that I can't be in front of 1,000 people in person in one day, and I can't Zoom either. After 6 hours, I'm tired. My eyes are kind of rolling back in my head. So it's like, well, at that point, how do I really help the masses? We can
Sorry,
put content out there.
I
I,
just dropped something.
you
Sorry about
okay?
that. Yeah.
No worries. So I realized that I had to put some information out there. And
Mm.
I decided to work on a project and then put a book together. Now, the book is not a biography of football. That's a little boring. But what it is,
Some people
story.
might find that exciting. So,
They can actually buy the book, across every major retailer at the moment. They'll find out exactly what's in the book. But to give you the gist, it's really a story of my journey. But at the same time, it interweaves, really three-prong approach, helping the leaders who run these organizations, the teams that work within these organizations, and the strategies who help these organizations attract donors. So it's very in the aspect of technical, but at the same time, there's storytelling. There's a lot of real life stories that complement some of the theories and the
right,
concepts.
like some
Also,
experiences and things
mhm,
you've gone through with organizations, I would imagine, right?
right. All right. And I was very excited to be able to put some content out there. And I didn't self-publish. I actually, got picked up by a traditional publisher that
Oh, that's
really loved
great.
my content,
Yeah.
and it made sense. You're not what other football personnel or, many other athletes were they able to say, from my experience as an athlete, I'm going to apply that towards something, in the business community. And that's really where I said, you know what? When you have a former NFL athlete, professional, sportsman who can actually put something like this together and actually make it make sense. This is the solution. The solution is, drink all the information in the book, because why, it's going to help every organization apply these strategies immediately. And I just felt like I needed to, leave a legacy, and that's a form of leaving a
Right.
legacy, is being able to really help solve a problem. And that's the reason why I wrote the book, is to really help impact the nonprofit community. It's a $480 billion industry. Why are there
Yes.
kids still suffering?
I
Why
mean,
are there
everyone I know has a nonprofit. It's like
everybody, right?
I work a lot of events. I work at red carpets. I just did a red carpet on Sunday, and you know, almost everyone I talked to had like some sort of nonprofit or was thinking of starting one. So yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Well, it's exciting to know that when you're in it for the right reasons,
Mm.
not just the write off. You're in it for the reasons to be able to really help impact your community in whatever capacity. There's many missions and many reasons why people have the inkling to want to help. But when you think about it, it's bigger than what you see in the mirror. It's bigger
Right.
than that one or two people that you're helping. Really, when you are driving a mission, it really has to come from the heart. But then you want to surround yourself with the right people to help you grow it. And that's your board, and that's the people that
Right.
you bring in to learn more about how to get involved. And that's really the nature of our backbone in the United States. We all started with government and nonprofits. So I feel like it's just, a part of my legacy to be able to leave an impact. And that's why I wrote the book.
Mm. What else do you have going on these days? So you have the book and you're doing the nonprofit. Is there some organizations that you've been working with where you can sort of see your impact with your ideas?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are many organizations that I'm a part of, across Florida, in the Tri-County. Families First of Palm Beach County, an amazing social service organization that helps, domestic violence abuse, that helps,
Mhm.
women and children, really helps them get housing, resources, women who are pregnant without resources. This organization has been around for 30 plus years. Julie Swindler, the CEO, has been there for over 28.
Oh
So
wow,
when you
yeah,
think
it's a long
about
time.
an organization that has goodwill in the community, these are the organizations that mean something to me because one, I love children. I love being able to provide the youth with access, with resources. And when I realized that, Palm Beach County had an organization that needed a person like myself to become a part of it, I joined immediately. And I've been with the organization now for quite some time. I'm actually the chairman of Legacy Gifts, as
Okay.
well as I sit on the board. And it's just one organization that I feel that, as we're educating our community, sharing with people the value of how to get involved with Families First of Palm Beach, it really leaves the right feeling when people think about helping because they know that, families are in need. Now, I do mix and mingle with other organizations as well. I'm a part of the Symphony of Palm Beach as well in the arts. I think that's
Mm,
so important to kind of also, strengthen the left and the right side of your brain.
right.
Um, with the NFL Players Association, a lot of the guys are part of the Boys and Girls Club.
Mhm.
We do feel that a lot of us, had some experience, an upbringing within those types of clubs. So we like to give back and participate. Even in Miami, where I currently reside, I'm a big for big brothers and big
Right.
sisters, and I think it's so important to offer mentorship. Mentorship in the capacity to really be able to help a kid learn how to level up, even when they're in their infant stages of life. Kids don't really start developing until they get to middle school and then beyond. So it's like if we can help these kids at an early age really identify who they are as people by having mentors. I became a big and for the last three and a half years, my little he's grown up to become a man. When he was 15 years old, we had to kind of interview several rounds to see if we qualified to be a match. After we connected and we found out we were the ideal match, I've been
Mm,
following him ever since. Now
that's
he's a
great.
fresh. He's a freshman in high school, a receiver. He actually attends my actual high school, so I feel even more powerful. It's my alma mater. So it's
Right.
but Miami South Ridge was the high school where I attended, and I
Uh-huh.
just that it's just so important now to be a part of the community.
Right.
Whether it's
Mhm.
one life at a time, or whether you get involved in some organization where you feel you're making a difference.
That's amazing. Is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't do everything that I do by myself.
Right.
Another aspect is, surrounding yourself with the right types of partners, the right type of people who can help, elevate, even my game. When I approach organizations, I come at it with my mind, with, the
Mm,
strategic planning of really helping to grow long term. A lot of times, many organizations don't have their logistics, in line,
mm,
meaning business
yeah.
plans, strategic plans, really what's going to allow an organization to get funded. And when you think about that, that's really what's black and white. How is the organization structured? What are the revenue streams? How are we looking at this for the long term? So I
Mm.
do actually have a few partners that partner with in the community who have helped me bring more value to startup nonprofits and even
Okay. Yeah.
mature
Like the
nonprofits.
what? So is there a difference between like what a beginning nonprofit needs to do and like let's say someone that's been around for a while?
Well, it all depends on, your program because every organization may have a different aspect, different approach of what they're doing and providing into the community. But
Right.
what doesn't change is you need a business plan. You
Mhm.
need a business plan to really help identify what you're doing and where you're going because
Right.
that's really when you're getting corporations to think socially responsibly to say, hey, I understand what you're doing. You're not a risk for me. I want to be able to help. So here's a check for X amount of dollars. But you got to come correct. You got to have
Yeah,
your
you have
business.
to. Yeah, it's the same. I mean, I'm more in film, but it's the same. Like, just because you have a screenplay doesn't mean you still need a business plan. So,
Right, right. Well, one of my partners is Right Choice Consulting Firm.
mm,
They've been around for quite some time, out of the Pompano area of Florida, but they service
mm,
the whole entire country. They are the experts, technical writers who are really able to bring value to these nonprofits as well as the businesses as well that I work
mm,
with. I've been able to integrate some of their services with some of the organizations that I help because ideally, a person like myself is really relevant for an organization when they have the capacity, meaning the
right,
resources to grow the organization. I can't do much for an organization if they're not, you know,
right. They can't grow, and they can't take what you can help them with, and
well,
you plant the
logistically
seed and
prepared.
make a tree, right? So,
Right, logistically prepared, because
right,
a lot of those things that I can do is help them grow their assets, help them invest, help them strategically, put ideas together and help them attract new dollars. However, a donor or anybody who would like to make a contribution needs to feel comfortable.
yeah,
They
you
need to
have to
feel
believe your money's going to a good cause, and that it's not going to get wasted, or it's going to pay for someone's new car, or whatever.
right. And that's the scarcity of why, another reason why I wrote the book, Let's Get It.
Mm,
Because I feel that a lot of organizations, they still run off of the mom pop approach where, hey, you know what, as long as we're doing what we're doing, we're providing our resources, we're giving our time, we're volunteering, we're going to grow organically. And nowadays, this is a capital markets world where people are
right.
using money and currency to be able to grow and be able to survive. Now, a person like myself, I approach it more on the strategy side. Well, okay, well, if you do receive a donation or you have a contribution, how are we going to grow it? So we can continue our programs and not feel as if we're in a situation, if a pandemic surfaces back again, we're now not going to receive the same type of federal funding or have those donors who are going to continue to provide their contribution. I have written the book to help nonprofits think independently. I
Okay.
have written the book to describe how you can apply these strategies in real time. And that's really the difference where when you ask me a question, can I help an organization at the infancy stage as opposed to just the mature stage? Yes, I can help them from beginning all the way to in perpetuity. But when
Right.
you think about it, we want to make sure we are providing these organizations with the right type of development
Mm,
from the very beginning stages, because you can't do anything but grow the right way if you're structured the right way, if that makes sense.
right. For you personally, was there anyone, like, when you went from football into the finance, did you have anyone that helped you in that transition? Was it hard for you to make that transition?
You know, that's a good question, Sage. For me, I've always been determined. I don't know the way my DNA has been built and
Mm,
configured, but I've always had, the interest to keep learning. And by me being curious, by me having an interest to, advance my life, becoming educated was key. So, in my college years, when I had adversity, who I turned to was the church.
mm,
Pastor Bruce Hogan, who represented the Remsen Memorial at the time, was my pastor. Helped me through lots of challenges. When I got hurt and I was in the hospital, my pastors, they showed up
right.
and they were there for me as opposed to just my family.
Mm,
So, these are the people who I continue to praise. Fast forward into my pro football life, Mark Treston was a great, person, and mentor for me as well as a head coach, because he
mm,
actually, had conversations with their players,
mm,
treated us fairly, and was there for me. As I move forward in my life out of sport, I have mentors in the business community. My sisters, are great leaders in my life. And I
mm,
feel like these are the people who I like to surround myself with, positive, forward-thinking people. So, I give my praise to the circle, my tribe,
right.
people who have really helped impact my life in a way that has allowed me to propel.
What's your biggest piece of advice for someone who's wanting to maybe transition from one job to another job or one career to another career like you have?
Mindset. It's mindset, specifically mindset, knowing that you don't want to approach it not feeling as if you don't already have it. Because I think if you approach it thinking confidently, your mindset, meaning, hey, you never know what's going to happen. You may get it or not. But if you go into that interview confident, that's going to be the determination whether you do land that job or not. Not walking in there on eggshells and just feeling intimidated by anything that you face. If you have confidence and you set that in your mental game, there's nothing that can hold you back from being able to excel. And I do believe that mindset plays a humongous role with how you perform, with decisions you make for your health, as well as the people that you allow to enter your world in your life. Mindset is
yeah. Especially here in LA and Miami, there's a few people you might want to steer away from.
Right. Clip the cord quick and run off.
Yeah, but some people are sneaky. Some people get in there. You're like, oh, I thought I was so much better, and where did that come from?
Right.
So
I think it also plays a role with your goals in life. A lot of people, if you have goals that you set, it doesn't have to be lofty, humongous goals. It could be small, intermediate goals that you can actually achieve. And I think those things are the steps of getting you to leaps and bounds.
Right. Well, thanks so much for being with us today. How do we find you online? Let us know how to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out my website, KristofferDoura.com. That's one way you can connect, find my book available, but also learn more about who I am, my profile. I'm on LinkedIn, which is a business, platform. So Kristoffer Doura on LinkedIn. I do have a Instagram, which is Zo _ the word the _ legend. So if people want to connect with me there, they can. I'm very open to connecting and learning from people, seeing if there's, synergies, for friendship or even for the business community. I think a lot of times you never know what somebody does or, who they know. And I think obviously you could learn from having a conversation, how much more involvement do you want to kind of get involved with people? And I think you always kind of have that gut feeling, knowing that, hey, you know what, I'm going to give this person a chance. This is what I did with you. Say,
yeah, exactly. We met at an event, and hey, we chatted here.
7-8 months later, I'm on your show. So it's like,
exactly.
Small world and how things work when you have that gut feeling that good people, good vibrations.
Right. I just go, like I meet people. I'm like, hey, I like you. I don't know why, but hey, let's go with it. You seem cool, so we're good. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us today and giving us your journey. I mean, your near-death experience, your book, football, finance. I mean, it was a very interesting story that you have, and I can't wait to see you when you come back to LA and keep me posted on what you get up to. So.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show, Sage. It was an honor to be here in your presence and just have a conversation. I look forward to reconnecting when I do visit the West Coast. And, when you are also welcome when you come to the East Coast.
In Miami, yes.
Get over to Miami, Sage. We're waiting on you.
I lived in Miami. I had too much fun. That's why I left. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually very proud of myself that I got as much accomplished when I lived there as I did. So
nice. Yeah. Well, it could be a black hole if you don't know how to surround yourself with the right people. But you're always welcome here again, and definitely looking forward to connecting with you soon.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Kris. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have don't eat too much turkey. And to everyone else, thanks for joining us on Shout Out with Sage on Stream and Hub Radio, and we will see you next Wednesday. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks. Bye. Cool.